If making healthy meals at home feels hard by the end of the day, it's usually not because you don't care or because you're not interested in eating healthy. It's typically because you don't have the capacity to think about food decisions. Today, we're talking about one simple shift that's going to make those decisions feel easier. Let's get started. Welcome to Chronic Illness Moms. If you're more than just a tired mom, I'm talking trying to make it through the day without crashing by noon while raising neurodivergent kids, you're not alone. I'm Ashley, a wife, mom, and certified health coach. I have lived with autoimmune disease and flare-ups that made everyday life feel harder than it should. After years of pushing through and burning out, I learned how much stress, poor sleep, and nervous system overload were driving my symptoms. Everything changed when I started building small, realistic habits that actually supported my body instead of fighting it. In this podcast, you'll learn simple habits that help you to feel better. So pop in your earbuds and take a break from the chaos. It's you time. When we are struggling with consistently making healthy meals at our home, there's a good chance that it isn't about you wanting to eat healthier. Really, most of us care deeply about what we're feeding our families. We want to take care of our families. We want to eat healthier. We want to feel better. You've tried different food plans. You've saved recipes that you really want to try out. You know foods that you eat that make you feel better. The problem usually shows up later in the day or when it comes time to actually cook, when your brain is already full. That is the moment where everyone's hungry, you're running low on patience, you're exhausted, and the thought of trying to come up with a plan for dinner feels like too much. That is the moment we're going to be talking about today. This is also something we dig into inside our chronic health coaching, not just food ideas, but also simple systems that are going to support your body and also your capacity to figure out how you can consistently make these healthy meals for your family. If you want help creating routines around food, stress, energy, just generally feeling better with healthy habits, you can learn more at ashleybraden.com/coaching, or you can check the link in the show notes below. Okay, for a long time, I thought that my struggle with consistently making healthy dinners for my family meant that I just needed to try harder. I assumed that the problem was I wasn't organized enough, I didn't have a good enough plan, or I just generally lacked motivation. What I eventually realized was the hardest nights where I was struggling to make dinner they weren't happening because I didn't know what to cook. They were really happening because I did not have the mental space or the capacity or even the energy sometimes to decide what to make my family. When you're living with chronic symptoms, stress, ongoing exhaustion, your brain just does not have unlimited decision-making power. By the end of the day, you've already been using up your decision-making skills and capacity on managing your kids, managing your own emotions, managing your schedule, managing your house, all of these different things. If you have a job, you're taking care of that as well. So standing in the kitchen, trying to mentally inventory your food and come up with a plan, that can often be the breaking point because it just feels like too much. It's one of those things where we get overwhelmed, so we just avoid. We shut down. We say, okay, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to choose something simple, or I'm going to order takeout and not deal with this right now. That is, like I said, it's when we end up ordering takeout or eating fast food or things that go against our health goals. And it is not because we aren't motivated enough. It's not because we don't have a desire to be healthier. It's just because we aren't making those decisions beforehand that are going to set us up for success. So let's talk about one thing that can really help you to begin to be successful in making healthy foods for your family. And that is the pantry. So here's the core idea that I just want you to focus on and hear today. A stocked pantry is going to make eating at home feel much easier whenever you don't have the capacity to think about food decisions. Now, I will tell you, we are going to be focusing on all this month in February, my Thursday episodes, we are going to be focusing on different methods, basically, to help you to learn how to consistently eat healthy and build these habits. So when you hear me say the pantry, just understand that this is not the one core thing. We're going to be touching on, okay, once you have that stocked pantry, then what do we do from there? It's these little habits that build on themselves, like I talk about so often. But I think the first step has to be having a stocked pantry. And the reason for this is because we need simple go-to options that make our decision-making easier. It's similarly to how I shared in Monday's episode about the natural remedies. We need to have a plan beforehand that is setting us up for success. So how can we do that? The goal with the stocked pantry is to reduce how much your brain has to work when you're already exhausted, when you already don't have that decision-making capacity. A little bit of pre-planning can really set you up to stick with your health goals, even on the days when you just don't feel like it. And the other thing is, you're going to have days where you don't want to deal with it at all. And if you order fast food or you make a quick meal option, it's okay. Give yourself grace in those moments too. So let's talk about what a well-stocked pantry is going to do for you. The first thing is it's going to remove those last-minute decision-making, problem-solving things. So you're not going to be realizing mid-recipe, like, oh, I'm going to make this, and then halfway through, you're like, oh, great, something's missing. So either I have to pivot, or I have to run to the store, or I have to ask my husband to run to the store, or something like that. The other thing it will do is it will shorten decision time. So you already know what meals are possible with the basics that you consistently keep in your pantry, which means it's limiting the amount of decisions you have to make, because instead of, okay, I'm trying to pull a dinner idea out of thin air, I have the staples to make these 5 recipes. So out of these 5 recipes that I know I have the ingredients for, what do I want to make? The third thing is it is going to support consistency without you having to do a strict plan. Now, some people love a meal plan. I do a meal plan, but it's really like a monthly meal plan, and it's pretty loose just so I have that flexibility. But for those who just don't want a meal plan, or they don't want a weekly meal plan, the great thing about having a well-stocked pantry is you don't have to have a meal plan. You just need the ingredients that you want for those meals you consistently make time and time again, that are always going to be in your pantry. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to wonder. And this can help so much whenever you are dealing with things like fatigue that hits especially hard, like in the evening hours. If you're dealing with brain fog, if you have kids who have specific food preferences or food sensitivities, if you are dealing with some kind of a flare, anything like that, those days whenever your capacity is just very limited, you need systems and routines that you can fall back on to carry that load for you when you are struggling. So instead of asking yourself, oh, great, what should we eat for dinner tonight? Your brain really only has to ask, which of these options do I have the energy to make tonight? And that is the difference. A stocked pantry doesn't give you more willpower or more motivation. It just gives you fewer decisions. So I want to say one small habit that I want you to focus on for this week, because the idea of completely restocking or stocking an entire pantry can feel a little bit overwhelming. And that's obviously what we want to avoid. But then also think about the fact that just on your budget, that can be very difficult to just go out and buy a ton of groceries. So what is one habit that you can focus on this week? And keep in mind, we're going to be adding a habit every single week throughout the month of February as well, to help you to really start to get in the habit of creating healthy meals at home. So for this week, I want you to choose 5 pantry staples that you never want to run out of. Again, we're not going on a shopping spree. This is not a completely stock your pantry type of thing. Focus on 5 staples. So I'm going to give you some examples. This could be one protein that you can use consistently. You're using it very often. It could be one cooking fat or something like that, oil that your body tolerates well. It could be one quick base ingredient. For me, that would be something like you could do like a carb, like rice or rice or potatoes or something like that. You could also have one fast meal option. So whenever we are just stretched thin and I know I don't have the capacity, what is one really quick meal I can get out on the table? This could be either like a crock pot meal that you throw everything in the morning, or it could be some kind of a convenience type of thing that, you don't want it all the time, but it is still better than the alternative of what you could do. If you're not deciding beforehand, I'm okay with this if this is like a desperate time and we just need a quick meal, decide that. And then do one comfort staple food. So I want you guys to write these down. And then the great thing about this list, this kind of becomes your non-negotiable list. And this is the way I do this. I go grocery shopping once a month. And by this point in time now, I just know those staples that I need to get every single time I go, because we're eating those meals pretty consistently. Now, obviously, some of those meals change out with the season, but still, it's eliminating the decisions that I have to make, because I know there are these set meals that we are going to eat on repeat pretty much no matter what. And I'm not having to think about, oh goodness, do I need this? Do I not need that? I already keep those items stocked in my pantry. I can just go and check and see, take inventory. Do I need more? How much more do I need? Or am I good for the month? And then I just move forward with my grocery shopping. Okay, and I also want to encourage you. You do not have to buy everything at once. Just start noticing when one thing is running low and then restock it again before it is gone. Kind of like I shared with my example of, when I do my monthly grocery shopping, I'm just going and I'm checking inventory to see what I do or do not need. Okay, so next week we're going to be building on this idea by talking about default meals, or how you can stop meal planning without completely falling into total chaos. Because we want eating healthier to feel easy. We want it to be something where you're having fewer decisions in order to still consistently and successfully do it. So make sure to tune in to next week's episode, and I hope you guys have a wonderful week. I'll see you back next time. Hey friend, I hope you found today's episode helpful. If you did, would you take a minute to share it with another mom who's struggling with chronic symptoms? And leave a review on Apple Podcasts. It means the world to me to know this podcast is making a difference for you. All right, it's time for me to go tackle those snack requests, and remember that a short walk, even if the kids turn it into a race, still counts as self-care. Keep chasing those little wins. Even when it feels messy, you're making progress. The information shared in this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult your healthcare provider before making any changes to your health routine. I'm not a doctor, and this podcast is not intended to treat or diagnose any condition. You're the expert on your body. Listen to it and reach out to a trusted provider for support.